Hello learners, welcome to today's lesson. Today we are going to have a look at grammar, our subtopic primary auxiliary verbs. So before that, we are going to look at the lesson's objectives. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to know examples of primary auxiliary verbs as well as use primary auxiliary verbs appropriately in sentences. So we begin by looking at what are primary auxiliary verbs. Primary auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. So when I talk about an auxiliary verb, I simply mean a helping verb. So we are told that they can be used as main verbs in a sentence, and they can also be used to support the main verbs. These auxiliary verbs or these helping verbs in a sentence, we are told they can be used as main verbs, and they can also be used to support the main verbs in a sentence. So let us look at the primary auxiliary verbs that we have. So we've got three primary auxiliary verbs. We've got the first one, which is be. We've got do, and we also have the third one, which is have. So those are the three primary auxiliary verbs that we have. Then, as we've said initially, these three primary auxiliary verbs, that is be, do, and have, they can be used as main verbs in sentences, and also they can be used to support main verbs. So let us take a look at that in our examples, in the sentences that we have. So we have our first sentence here. Did you make it to town on time? So we have our auxiliary verb here, or rather our helping verb, which is did. Did is an auxiliary verb. It's a form of the verb do, as we are going to see later in the lesson. So did you make it to town on time? So we've got our auxiliary verb here, which is did. But in this sentence, if you check keenly, we also have got another verb, which is make. So back to what I had said, that these auxiliary verbs, they can be used as main verbs, and they also can be used to support the main verbs in sentences. So if asked the function of did in this particular sentence, we are going to say that it is an auxiliary verb, simply because it has been used to support the main verb in this sentence, which is make. So the main verb is make, while its helping verb or its auxiliary verb is did. So in this particular case, did has been used as a helping verb, while make has been used as the main verb. So that is what we mean when we say that an auxiliary verb can be used as a helping verb in a sentence. We proceed on to example number 2. I have some revision papers. So our auxiliary verb here is have. But now, verb in this case has been used as a main verb. Why are we saying that have has been used as a main verb? Simply because if we look keenly in this sentence, there is no other verb. So there is no other verb that have is supporting, thus making it the main verb. So that is why we are saying that an auxiliary verb can be used as a helping verb in a sentence, and also it can be used as a main verb in a sentence. We proceed to the next point. There are various forms of the primary auxiliary verbs. So as we've said, we have three auxiliary verbs. We have be, we have do, and we also have. But these auxiliary verbs, or rather these helping verbs, they normally take various forms depending on the function that it is serving in a sentence. For example, if we pick the first one, which is a be can take various forms in sentences. For example, it can take the form of am, it can take the form of is, it can take the form of are, it can take the form of was, it can take the form of were, it can take the form of be, take the form of been, and also take the form of being. We proceed on to the second one, which is have. Have can also take various forms depending on the function it is serving in a sentence. For example, it can take the form of has, had, or rather maintained to be have, and also it can take the form of having. We proceed on to the third one, which is do. Do can also take various forms. It can take the form of does, it can take the form of did, do, still maintaining. We can also have done, and we can also have doing. So these are the various forms of the primary auxiliary verbs. And we've said they normally take these various forms depending on the function they are serving in a sentence. On to the next point. These forms change according to their function. Just like we've said, the form of the primary auxiliary verb will change depending on its function in a sentence. So let us look at what we mean by this. So if we take a look here, these forms can change when we are expressing tense. The first one, Mary is a doctor. So that is the present tense. The verb is already indicates that it is present tense. Supposing I were to change this into the past tense, so the form of is will change and it will be was. So we are going to say that Mary was a doctor. So the past tense has been indicated by the verb was. So as we can see, the verb has changed while I am expressing tense. On to the second example. The verb can also change when I'm showing agreement between subject and verb. What do I mean when I talk about subject-verb agreement? When I talk about subject-verb agreement, I simply mean when a subject is in singular, the verb should be in singular. If the subject is in plural, then the verb should also be in plural. So that is what we mean by subject-verb agreement. So the verb will also change when I'm showing an agreement between subject and verb. For example, if I take the first sentence, she is a diligent worker. So she here is our subject. So definitely the verb should also be in singular. So she is a diligent worker. If I'm to change that, I'm going to say they are diligent workers. So the subject and the verb must coordinate in terms of being singular and plural. On to the third one. The verb also is used in the perfective and the progressive aspect. What do I mean when I talk about perfective aspect? Perfective aspect is when an action has been done and it's already complete. If I talk about the progressive aspect, it means an action is still continuing to take place, or at that particular time that it was being talked about, it was still taking place. That is why we are talking about progressive, continuing. Perfective, already complete. So I have my first example. I have eaten. So this one is in the perfective aspect. When we come to the progressive aspect, I was eating. So we have our verb here, which is have, which is showing the perfective aspect. The action is already complete. I was eating, which is indicating the progressive aspect. To indicate that at that particular time, the action of eating was still taking place. Then I have she has eaten. Has here, which is the primary auxiliary verb, is indicating perfective. The action is already complete. She was eating. Was again is indicating the progressive aspect. At that particular time, she was still continuing to eat. Then they had eaten. So had here indicating perfective aspect, and were indicating progressive aspect. At that particular time, they were still continuing to eat. So we have the primary auxiliary verbs is, was, and were are expressing the progressive aspect. So as we can see, these primary auxiliary verbs, they can be used to they have been used to express the progressive aspect. While have, has, and had, the three of them, have, has, had, express the perfective aspect. So the three verbs here, they've been used to express the perfective aspect. So, as we've seen, the primary auxiliary verbs, they normally take various forms depending on the function that they are serving in a sentence, as well as indicating some other things. So that is the end of our lesson. I hope all is clear.